Before we begin, close your eyes for a second. Imagine someone you love, someone you trust. Now imagine that person watching. As you're humiliated, broken, judged by strangers. And they say nothing. No defense. No comfort. Just silence. Now open your eyes. Because that's how the story begins. If you've ever doubted your worth, if you've ever been made to feel small, this story is for you. I didn't notice the cold rain at first. Not until my blouse clung to me like a second skin. The kind that makes you feel more exposed than just wet. Streetlights stretched across the wet pavement like smudged paint. And I walked faster. Not to reach somewhere, but to escape. Escape that dinner table. Escape their eyes. Escape Tyler's silence. My shoes squeaked with every step. My hair stuck to my face. But I didn't care. I just needed to get away. Just hours ago, I thought something special was about to happen. Tyler Grant, the man I had loved for almost a year, smiled at me that morning and said, "It's time you met my parents, Nat. You're important to me." Those words, they wrapped around me like sunlight. I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe he's going to propose soon. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, carefully choosing what to wear. A soft peach blouse I had sewn myself. My hands trembled. Not with fear, but with hope. The Grants weren't just wealthy. They were the kind of rich you only see in magazines. Their house was massive, but it didn't feel warm. It felt cold. Perfect. Empty. The dining table could seat 20. But only 4 of us were there. Me, Tyler, his mother, his father. The moment I said hello, I knew I didn't belong there. His mother looked at me like she was scanning for flaws. His father smiled politely, but his eyes didn't. They didn't ask questions to know me. They asked to measure me. Where did you go to school? Just a vocational college, not a real university. Tailoring isn't that limiting. Does your family own property or rent? Each question felt like a slow cut. And with every answer I gave, I could see their impression of me shrinking. And Tyler, he sat quietly. Not once did he say, "She's brilliant. She's talented. I love her." He just looked down, like he was embarrassed of me. The moment the dessert was placed on the table, I stood up. I couldn't do it. Not another second. "Thank you for dinner," I said. "But I have to go, early morning at work." His mother nodded slightly. "Of course, it was enlightening to meet you." I clutched my purse to my chest, waiting just a beat, hoping Tyler would stand. Follow me. Say something, anything. But he stayed seated, talking to his father, like I didn't exist. So I walked out, alone. The rain had turned into a downpour, but I was glad. It hid my tears, washed away the makeup, the hope, the illusion. I held myself tight, like I could hold together the pieces of my heart. I didn't want to go home. Not yet. My mom, Susan, she has a heart condition, and she feels my emotions like they're her own. I couldn't walk in crying. Couldn't let her see me broken. She's been through enough. I kept walking until I saw a warm, glowing light. A small 24-hour coffee shop. I stepped inside. Water dripping from my coat. Face damp with rain and grief. The smell of roasted beans wrapped around me like a hug. I sat down at a corner booth with a hot cup and just stared out the window. Everything outside was a blur. Cars, lights, people rushing. But the only thing I saw clearly was the truth. This wasn't just about Tyler. It was about me. All those years I told myself I wasn't good enough. Because I didn't have a fancy degree. Because I didn't wear designer clothes. Because I worked with my hands instead of sitting at a desk. I had built a life. Worked late hours at my sewing machine. Made dreams out of fabric. And still, I let someone else's silence make me question my worth. But in that quiet booth, with steam rising from my coffee, I realized something. Maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe it was the messy, painful beginning of something stronger. When I was little, it was just me and Mom. No brothers. No sisters. No father at the door. He left before I could even remember his face. And Mom never said a bad word about him. Just, some people aren't ready to love the way a family needs. We lived in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment in Des Moines. It wasn't much, but it was filled with love. Painted walls, second-hand furniture, laughter in every corner. Mom worked as a secretary, always tired but always smiling. She taught me to sew when I was 9. On an old Singer machine that clanked and squeaked. I remember stitching crooked lines on scraps of fabric. And Mom clapping like I'd made magic. "Your hands are gentle, Nat," she'd say. "That means you'll make something beautiful out of this world." And I believed her. By high school, I knew I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted to make simple dresses that made real women feel beautiful. Mom was everything to me. She wasn't just my parent. She was my friend, my cheerleader, my safe place. She'd come home from long days at work, her shoulders heavy, her eyes tired, and still ask me, "So Nat, what did you dream about today?" Her heart condition started when I was little. She'd lose her breath climbing stairs. Sometimes she'd press her chest gently and sit down. But she never made it seem like a burden. She never let fear take away her warmth. I learned early. Real strength isn't loud, it's soft, steady, brave. While other kids rode bikes or played outside until sunset, I stayed home, learning how to make simple meals, folding laundry, helping Mom wherever I could. It never felt like a sacrifice. She had given me everything. And when she placed that old Singer sewing machine in front of me, I felt something shift inside me. Freedom. Joy. Purpose. By high school, I knew. I wanted to design clothes. Not big fashion. Not luxury brands. Just beautiful, honest clothing for women like my mother. Women who deserve to feel special in their own skin. I couldn't afford a fancy design school. And my grades weren't perfect. But I enrolled in a local vocational college right after graduation. People judged me for it. Just a seamstress. That's not a real career. But Mom, her eyes would shine every time she saw me behind that sewing machine. That was enough. We didn't have much. Some Christmases came with no tree. Some birthdays were just spaghetti dinners and handmade cards. But we had laughter. We had music in the kitchen. We had paint on our fingers when we remodeled our old cabinets ourselves. We had each other. And we had dreams. Still, there were nights when I'd hear her cry softly from her room, trying not to wake me. But I knew. She worried. About her health. About our future. About what would happen to me if one day she didn't wake up. And I'd lie awake, making promises to myself. I'll work harder. I'll make her proud. I'll make our life better. I meant every word. I met Tyler at a charity dance. My best friend Lily dragged me there after my double shift. Come on, Nat, just this once. I didn't want to go. I had nothing fancy to wear. So I pulled out a navy blue dress I had sewn months earlier. Simple, clean. Mate. The venue was beautiful. String lights, soft jazz. Men in suits and women in gowns that cost more than my monthly rent. I stood awkwardly by the punch table, trying not to look out of place. That's when I saw him. Tyler. He didn't walk like he owned the room. He walked like he didn't need to. He came up to me, smiling kindly. Is this your first one of these? I laughed nervously. Is it that obvious? Not in a bad way. Sometimes the people who feel out of place are the ones I actually want to talk to. He made me feel seen. We talked about food, about movies, about how he couldn't sew a button and I could build a dress from scratch. He seemed fascinated. Genuine. He called the next day, took me for coffee, then dinner, then long drives around town. Tyler came from money. Nice car, fancy clothes. But he never made me feel less. He said he liked my home-cooked meals more than fancy ones. He complimented my thrift store finds. He watched me sew and whispered, "You're the hardest working person I know." I let myself believe that I had finally found someone who valued who I was. Not what I wore. Not what I owned. Just me. Looking back, there were signs. He never invited me to family events. When I asked about his parents, he'd change the subject. They're private, you'll meet them eventually. And I believed him. Because I wanted to. Because I needed to. He spoke about the future like it included me. Road trips, holidays. Moving in together someday. He made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I was finally enough for someone. One evening, while we were walking in the park, he turned to me and said, "Friday night, dinner at my parents' place. I want them to meet you." I smiled, laughed nervously, tried to hide how fast my heart was beating. "Really, you're sure?" "Of course, they'll love you." But deep inside, a small voice whispered, "What if they do?" I told Mom the night before the dinner. She beamed. Her eyes sparkled. She held my face gently and said, "See, I told you, good things come to good people." I didn't tell her how scared I was, how small I felt next to Tyler's world. I just smiled and nodded. Inside, I was trembling. But I told myself, "You're kind, you work hard. You're not perfect, but you are worthy." I couldn't afford a new outfit. So I wore a soft blue dress I had sewn from a discount fabric bolt. Elegant, simple, honest. Tyler had to work late. So I took the bus. And that's where I met someone. Someone who would change everything. But I didn't know it yet. It was raining lightly when I stepped onto the bus. Not many people were riding that evening. Just a few tired faces. And one woman at the front. She looked around 70. Wearing a tan coat and a knitted hat, holding a faded cloth bag. She was standing, arguing softly with the driver. "Please, my grandson is at the hospital. I don't have the fare today. I'll pay tomorrow, I promise." The driver shook his head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't let you ride without paying." The passengers looked away, pretending they didn't hear. Didn't see. But I did. I walked up quietly, reached into my purse, pulled out enough for both of us. "Here," I said softly to the driver. "It's taken care of." The woman turned to me, surprised. "Oh no, sweetheart, I can't." "It's okay," I smiled. "Please sit, you said you're going to the hospital." She nodded, eyes welling up. "Mercy General, my grandson had an accident. They say he'll be okay, but I need to be there." "Then that's exactly where you should be," I said. She reached for my hand. "Thank you, I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to," I whispered. She sat across from me. "I'm Jeanette Miller, and you are?" Natalie Cooper." She smiled. "Natalie, you've got a kind heart. The world doesn't see enough of that anymore." We rode in silence for a while. Just the hum of the bus and raindrops on the window. When her stop came, she stood up, clutched her bag tight, turned to me and said, "I'll remember this, sweetheart." And then she was gone. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Just a moment of kindness. Nothing more. But I was wrong. That one small moment would come back like a miracle when I needed it most. By the time I arrived at the Grants' house, the drizzle had turned into a full storm. Their mansion stood like a castle. Columns, manicured gardens. A giant fountain in the front yard. I paused at the iron gates. Took a deep breath. "You can do this," I whispered. "You belong here, you're enough." I walked up the long path, raindrops trailing behind me. The butler, yes, a real butler, opened the door. The foyer alone was bigger than our entire apartment. Marble floors, a chandelier the size of a car. A staircase that curled like a fairy tale. I stood there, clutching my purse, wiping a raindrop from my cheek. Tyler came down the stairs with a soft smile. "You made it," he said, kissing my cheek quickly. For a brief moment, I relaxed. Maybe I was just overthinking. Maybe it'll be okay. He led me into the dining room. His father stood when we entered. Tall, stern, businesslike. "Miss Cooper," he said, shaking my hand. His grip was firm, but not warm. His mother. She stayed seated. Wore a flawless cream blouse, pearls, and judgment. She looked me over slowly, like she was scanning a receipt. "Natalie, is it? We've heard some things," she said. Her voice cool and sharp like polished glass. "Thank you for inviting me," I said, sitting down. "Your home is beautiful." She smiled just enough to hurt. "Yes, we do our best." Dinner started with small talk. Charity galas, business deals. Vacations I couldn't pronounce. I tried to participate. Tried to smile. Tried to blend in. But every time I spoke, I saw it, the subtle glance between them. The hidden smirk. Then the questions started. "You're a seamstress. Where did you go to school?" "Vocational college, not a 4-year university." "Do you rent or own your apartment?" "Have you ever considered a more ambitious career?" Their voices were polite. Their words weren't. They didn't want to know me. They wanted to reduce me. And Tyler, he just sat there, smiling when his father cracked a joke, looking down when I glanced at him. Not once did he defend me. "My mother has a heart condition," I said. "That's why I chose to stay close to home, so I could support her." His mother tilted her head. "How admirable. The way she said it. It wasn't admiration. It was dismissal. By the time dessert arrived, I felt numb. I placed my napkin on the table. Forced a smile. Thank you for dinner. I have an early morning tomorrow. No one objected. No one tried to stop me. His mother just nodded. Of course, it was enlightening to meet you. I stood, clutching my purse, waiting. One last chance for Tyler to say, I'll walk you out. Wait. I'm sorry. But he said nothing. I turned, walked away, down the long hallway, through the massive door, out into the cold storm. No umbrella. No goodbye. The rain soaked me to the bone. But I didn't care. Because inside, I was already drowning. When I reached home, I stood outside for a moment. Soaking wet, breathing heavy. I couldn't walk in like this. My mom would know something was wrong instantly. And she didn't need more stress. Her heart couldn't handle it. So I wiped my face, squeezed my eyes shut, told myself, you're okay, you're strong, don't let her see. I took a deep breath, opened the door. Nat, is that you? Mom called from her bedroom. Her voice was soft, tired, but still full of warmth. Yeah, Mom, just got in, I replied, kicking off my wet heels. I tried to sound cheerful. It's pouring out there. I think I broke a world record for walking in heels. She laughed gently. That's my girl. Did everything go well tonight? I froze for half a second. Just enough. Then said, yeah, it was fine, just tired. She didn't ask more. You work too hard, sweetheart. Don't forget to rest. I won't, Mom. I walked straight to the bathroom, closed the door, turned on the shower hot, and broke. I cried harder than I had in years. Not because of the grants. Not even because of Tyler. But because I had believed. Believed I was finally enough. Believed this was the beginning of something beautiful. And all I got was silence. I watched the water swirl down the drain, carrying with it my pain, my pride. The next few days blurred together. I worked, smiled at customers, took extra shifts, kept myself busy. But inside I was empty. I hadn't told Mom anything. Just smiled. Cooked dinner. Washed dishes. She didn't ask. But I think she knew. She always knew. Then one morning, I walked into the kitchen and found her sitting at the table, pale, holding her chest. Moms, what's wrong? She looked up slowly. Just a little dizzy, happens sometimes. But her lips were trembling. I dropped everything. Grabbed her coat. Called a cab. The cardiologist examined her. Ran tests. Looked at her history. Then gave me a note for a specialist. That same afternoon, we went to Mercy General. The same hospital where Jeanette had gone to see her grandson. The specialist was kind. But his words were not gentle. Her condition has worsened. The medication is no longer enough. She needs open heart surgery, soon. How soon? I asked, trying to stay calm. Within the next month, preferably within 2 weeks. And then he said it. The cost without insurance will be $80,000 to $100,000. I felt the ground shift beneath me. That was more than I had ever seen in my life. More than 3 years of working full-time. Is there any help, any program? He sighed. There are charity grants, yes. But they're limited. Mostly for children or specific medical conditions. I'll give you a list of places to call. But I could hear it in his voice. Time was running out. That night, I sat at the kitchen table. Mom was sleeping, her chest rising slowly. I opened the crumpled paper the doctor gave me. Started calling. One by one. One voice after another. Sorry, we're not accepting adult cases right now. We're out of funds this quarter. You don't qualify. Try again next year. I was losing hope. Losing time. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then finally dialed. Tyler answered on the second ring. Nat, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I wouldn't be calling if it wasn't serious, I said. My mom needs surgery. We don't have the money. I thought maybe, just until I figure something out. You could lend me something. I'll pay you back every cent. There was silence. Then a soft chuckle. Wow, my mom literally warned me about this. She said you'd come running one day. Tyler, this isn't about us. It's my mom's life. Yeah, well, I'm not a bank. Don't call me again. And he hung up. I stared at the phone. The screen blurred through my tears. I had nothing left. No money. No family. No safety net. I wanted to scream. Wanted to throw something. But all I could do was sit there in the dark and hope for a miracle. 2 days after Tyler's rejection, I sat on a bench outside Mercy General. It was late afternoon. Cloudy skies. A chill in the air. Mom was inside, undergoing pre-surgery testing. Even though we had no idea how to pay for the surgery. I sat with my head in my hands. Tears dried on my cheeks. My thoughts scattered. I had no plan. No money. No hope. God, please, I don't need a miracle. Just a chance. Then I heard a familiar voice. Sweetheart Natalie, is that you? I looked up. And there she was. Jeanette Miller. The woman from the bus. Same tan coat. Same kind, tired eyes. But now brighter. Mrs. Miller, I asked, stunned. She smiled. You remember me, good. Because I remember you. She reached for my hand. Are you all right, honey? You look like I did the day I lost my husband. I tried to hold it together. But something about her presence, save soft, broke down my last wall. It's my mom, I whispered. She needs heart surgery. We don't have insurance. We don't have the money. I wiped my eyes. I don't know what to do. She sat beside me on the bench. You helped me when you had nothing to gain. When I had no one. And now it's my turn. She waved her hand. Benjamin, over here. A tall man walked over. Late 20s. Clean cut. Calm confidence in his step. He smiled at Jeanette, then at me. This is the young woman I told you about, she said proudly. The one who gave me dignity on that rainy night. And now she needs help. I shook my head. No, I'm not asking for. You didn't ask then either, Jeanette said softly. But you gave, and we haven't forgotten. Benjamin sat on my other side. Tell me everything. I told them everything. Mom's condition. The cost of the surgery. The charity rejections. Tyler's cruel response. I didn't hold back. Benjamin listened. Patient, thoughtful, kind. When I finished, I looked down, ashamed. I know it's a lot. I don't expect anything. He shook his head. How much do you need? No, really, I can't. I'm not asking if you can. I'm telling you I will. My company's doing well, he said. And I believe in paying kindness forward. You helped my grandma. Now let me help your mom. Tears spilled down my cheeks again. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he smiled. Say you'll let someone care for you, like you cared for a stranger. Mrs. Miller held my hand. You helped me reach my grandson that day. Let us help you keep your mother. Within 48 hours, the hospital billing department called me. Miss Cooper, your mother's surgery is fully funded. The payment has been processed. There's nothing more you need to worry about. I dropped the phone, pressed my hand to my mouth, collapsed into the nearest chair. I cried, but not from fear. From gratitude. From relief. From love. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That night, I sat with Mom by her bedside. She looked tired but peaceful. She held my hand and said, Don't be afraid, Natalie. Life turns pain into purpose. If you let it. You're stronger than you think. I nodded, eyes wet. I'm not scared anymore, Mom. We're not alone. The next morning, they wheeled her into surgery. Benjamin and Jeanette were there, sitting with me in the waiting room. For 6 hours, they kept me calm, telling stories, bringing coffee, holding space. Then the doctor finally walked out, smiling. It went perfectly. She's stable, she's recovering. She's going to be just fine. I hugged Benjamin. Then Jeanette. You saved her, I whispered. No, Benjamin said. You saved her years ago. When you chose kindness. We just gave it back. For the first time in months, I felt light, whole, and seen. The days after surgery were quiet but full of hope. Mom healed slowly. One breath at a time. One step at a time. Her cheeks began to glow again. Her laugh came back soft at first, then stronger. Every time she looked at me, she whispered the same thing. You saved me, Nat. And every time, I whispered back. You saved me first, Mom. You gave me everything. Benjamin and Jeanette visited often. They didn't disappear after the surgery was done. They brought groceries. They sat with Mom when I worked. They even brought flowers, always cheerful. One evening, Benjamin and I stood in the tiny kitchen. He leaned against the counter, watching me stir tea. You ever think about what's next? What do you mean? You've been surviving so long, Nat. But what about living? What about building something just for you? I smiled weakly. I've always dreamed of opening a bridal studio. Custom dresses, designs for real women. Then let's make that real, he said. I blinked. Ben, you've already done enough, more than enough. He shook his head. This isn't charity, it's investment in someone I believe in. It took weeks of conversations. Planning. Convincing. At first, I said no. But slowly, his belief in me became my own. We looked at small downtown spaces. Old buildings that needed love. Rooms that echoed with possibility. We signed the lease. Started renovations. Painted the walls ourselves. Every step felt terrifying. And magical. 9 months after Mom's surgery, Cooper Bridal opened its doors. A small studio. A big dream. White walls. Soft curtains. Wooden floors that creaked like memories. A wall full of sketches. A shelf lined with lace, beads, buttons. Each one hand-picked with care. My very first sign read: "Every woman deserves to feel like herself. Only more beautiful." The day we opened, Mom stood beside me. Strong, alive, glowing. She held the scissors with me as we cut the ribbon. Jeanette stood in front, clapping. Benjamin handed Mom a bouquet, her favorite pink lilies. Friends, neighbors, former clients, they all cheered. But in that moment, I didn't hear the noise. All I heard was my mother's voice years ago. "Your hands are gentle, Nat. And that means you'll make something beautiful out of this world." A week later, a young woman walked in. She looked nervous, avoided eye contact, held her arms over her stomach. I don't feel beautiful in anything I try on," she said quietly. I smiled, invited her to sit. We talked for hours. About her wedding, her insecurities, her hopes. I designed a dress just for her. Simple, elegant, hers. And when she tried it on, tears filled her eyes. "I feel beautiful again," she whispered. And just like that, so did I. Benjamin kept visiting. Sometimes for coffee. Sometimes just to ask about the business. He brought me flowers once. Just once. A bouquet of wildflowers. "Not from a shop," he said. "I picked these on the way, thought they looked like you." I blushed. We didn't label anything. Didn't rush. But in the quiet in-between moments, I saw it. Trust. Respect. The kind of love that grows slowly, like roots. One afternoon, I sat at my desk, sewing a new bodice. Mom was in the back, humming while steaming a veil. The sun streamed through the windows. The world felt gentle again. And for the first time in a long time, I thought about Tyler. Not with pain. Not even anger. But gratitude. Because if he hadn't stayed silent that night, if he hadn't let me walk into the rain alone, I wouldn't be here. Sometimes your story breaks open. Not to end, but to begin again. Sometimes the kindness you give away on a rainy bus ride returns to you in ways you never imagined. I was broken once, but I learned. Broken doesn't mean ruined. It means you're ready to be rebuilt. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because somewhere out there, someone is going through their own rainy walk home. And your kindness, your belief, could be the miracle they're waiting for.